This one, you can see it's growing. We're adding more magnetic field to it all the time.
What is a sunspot? I mean, what?
It's a region of intense magnetic field.
Okay.
There's magnetic field all over the sun, but for reasons that you still are trying to completely understand, underneath you can strengthen it and have it. Then, when it gets strong enough, it floats up to the surface and bursts through as this. So you can imagine there's long magnetic field loops that come out of one side of this and come in to the back of it. And you're constantly adding energy and you're shaking these loops up, and sometimes they release their energy, and they do that in the form of a solar flare or a coronal mass ejection.
We have 3 different kinds of space weather that we really worry about for customer support, and the first one is the solar flare. It's the first one we can see that affects radio communication, so HF or rescue missions. The military cares about that a lot, obviously, and then ham radio operators. And then the second one is solar radiation storms, and those have 2 effects. You have some radio interference up on the poles, so that can affect airlines that are going to be flying over the poles, and then so they might have to reroute down south so that they can have better communication, and that costs them a lot of money, as far as which is why we're under the Department of Commerce. But as far as fuel and time and delays and such, so they care about that one. And then also the astronauts. We talk to NASA once a day to give them an idea of what the solar radiation probabilities are for a storm, because there are some biological hazards that come along with them if they're not, especially if they're not inside the space station. So if they want to do any extra vehicular activity, then they make sure that they talk to us ahead of time. So
what time of day do you speak to them each day?
We talk to them at 10:30 in the morning our time, so 11:30 their time every day, and then for any kind of special support they also let us know when to call them. And then we talk to the Air Force 3 times a day, also to coordinate, make sure that we're all on the same page. The third type of space weather is the one that I was talking about today, and that's the geomagnetic storms. And
so let me just interject. Did you not reference the other 2 types of activity in this forecast?
I did reference it, but the probabilities are kind of mid-range for how much we were expecting for flare probabilities, and then almost no probability for the solar radiation storms.
Okay.
So it's low probability based on the sunspot groups that are active right now. And then the geomagnetic storms are the ones that I was talking about that did happen in the last 24 hours. And those are the main customers are the power grids. They need to know if they can expect any sort of surge. So they pay attention and try to keep their systems online so that they have a little bit more leeway for any kind of electrical surges. But they're very well prepared. They are very well trained by us and talk to us a lot to make sure that they've handled that so they don't have any power outages.